Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, starring Jerry Springer with Gene Galvin and me. I am Maria Corelli. We are recorded live from a brilliant studio audience here in Folkestone Coffee Parlor of Ludlow, Pennsylvania. And ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Jerry Springer!
What Gene should be from here forward, Judge Jerry Springer.
Don't judge me.
No, because that is totally out now. There is going to be a show starting, what, next September?
Yeah.
It'll go on the air. Judge Jerry Springer. So if you've seen Judge Judy, this is Judge Jerry. Judge Mathis, the People's Court, all those shows. But this is going to be the best one.
Oh, this will be.
We are actually very proud of you for doing that. By the way, Ben Knight is going to be on the show tonight. Ben is our music. And we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, Ben was on my other show.
He was actually. We actually talked about
Wasn't
Ben
pretty.
Knight last night because he's a luthier here at. What? Oh, for God's sake!
We did that. Let's.
Yeah, hello. Yes. Okay. Now I thought we agreed on that. I want the $10,000 policy.
What?
Term. Thank you very much. I'll call you back. I'm on.
Didn't we just have a discussion of taking it too far?
No, I apologize.
We just said
That
turn
is
our
my
phones
big
off.
head. No, I did. Okay, look, it's off. It's off. Anyway, so Judge,
Yes.
and I think we should give you the respect here too.
Well,
You're just saying that. That's ridiculous.
trust me, you
I don't
always,
want to do
you
that.
always have given me the respect I'm due.
We should give you, I really
Oh,
think, and I'm being
yeah.
serious here, I think from here forward, I tried to get people to call you Councilman Springer, Mayor Springer, or Mayor Jerry, but I really think if you are a sitting judge, you should be called Judge. So I now make a commitment to calling you Judge. How you doing, Judge?
Terribly. The idea that, because you are just sucking up because you want work. You want a job.
I need to make some walking around money. I need to get a dignified retirement. I do not have enough quarters for Social Security, and I'm 67 years old, so I'm past. I'm past the Social Security age, and I'm getting a freaking quarter. So
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be able to count them anyway if you think you're 67.
I would like to do this.
What?
If everybody listening, email me here at Jerry Springer Podcast at jerryspringer.com. That's Gene, spelled Jene, at jerryspringer.com. And send me your suggestions and your concepts and be as
Creative.
Machiavellian and as creative as you can. How the hell am I going to get, what's in this for me?
You mean the judge show?
Yes.
You?
What's in it for me? I can't be the bailiff because I wouldn't protect.
No, but what you could be is the defendant.
Oh, no. I could be.
I can
Michael
get
Cohen.
you on as a defendant.
Wait a
Yeah,
second.
Michael. Yeah,
Gene,
I'm
you
a
have-
fixer.
I
Michael
thought,
Cohen.
I thought I was already the bailiff,
You could be the bailiff.
right?
Yeah, because
You know,
he needs to have a kind of a demographic mix, so, you need a
You know,
woman or a person
That's
of
why I
ethnic
agreed to this
background.
podcast.
you Ludlowians
Ludlow.
are not going to get on the show. I want this show to be successful.
Yeah.
Hey, Gene, we're live. We have one person watching.
We have
I'm
no
just saying,
microphone on you, Paul, so no one
I'm
can
just
hear
saying,
you.
you can be live. You are whatever you want, but we'll
Well,
make it happen.
There's some guy over there talking who's not on mic.
I'm not on, but I no biz like showbiz. Is all I'm saying. Okay.
Did you guys need the
Paul
security,
Miller from
the bodyguard to get him out of here?
Yeah. But anyway, Jerry, we gotta, I don't know, we gotta figure out something.
What you can do on this.
I'm thinking, hey, I got contacted by Dr. Greg Schramm, and he is a guy who has a PhD in medieval literature, and the degree, of course, is worthless.
Worthless.
there are no jobs. I mean, what the hell would you do with a degree in medieval literature?
You'd come to Ludlow, Kentucky.
I don't know what you would do with it. So anyway, he contacted me and he said, may I please come on the show? He's been on before. He has a website,
Yeah.
AskTheLifeguard.com, and it's kind of bogus looking. It
Yeah.
never gets refreshed.
Yeah.
There's some,
Now remind me, why is he called the lifeguard again?
he is a lifeguard. He is an actual lifeguard,
Okay.
and that's how he makes his living.
What has that
He
to
does
do with
seasonal work.
medieval literature? The fact that he can't make a
He
living,
get a job.
he can't
So
get a
he
job.
became a lifeguard. And he thinks that people, and this has been corroborated by our own experiences, there are people who want to ask the lifeguard questions about lifeguarding and about the ocean, and even sometimes some scientific things like global warming, etc. So he contacted us and he said, would you contact
Are you on
me?
drugs?
I'm not. I know something. Jerry Springer comes in here and at the Folk School Coffee Parlor, and he always gets these, I call them candy-ass drinks. It is espresso.
No, it's a grande mocha with extra whipped cream.
Yeah, so I got one, I want to be like you, and I'm all jacked up. This is horrible.
So
This
he's
is
on
not
the
good for you. Do not drink these.
This is your second one.
Gene can only drink decaf.
Yeah, I'm strictly a decaf guy, and they come here and get one of those, I'm like, what the fuck? You know, maybe I'll take that out.
I'll take it.
Hey, David, you have Dr. Greg Schramm's phone number.
I do.
Because he begged us to be on to talk about some concept, something maybe he wants to be available. There, okay, let's leave a message.
Yeah, don't leave that, don't listen to the
Right.
number. People will call that number.
Oh,
At the
we'll
tone,
beep it out.
please record your voice message.
Along with
When you are
Gene's
finished
business.
recording, you may hang
No,
up
how
or
is
press pound for more options.
Nope.
Dr. Greg Schramm, this is the Jerry Springer podcast.
Oh, hold on. He's calling back now.
Hold on.
We just gave
He's
his
about
phone
Hello,
number out.
Mr. Strange. Are you there?
We just gave his phone number out.
Yeah, who is this?
Oh, that's the light bulb.
It's the Jerry Springer podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh! Dr. Schramm, this is Gene Galvin, and I'm joined by Maria Corelli. Say hello, Maria.
Hey.
And,
What do you learn?
and Jerry Springer. Dr. Schramm, you had contacted us the other day through the podcast office, and you had some concept you wanted to pitch to us. Maybe we could help you on. Well, what's your idea? All right, and that was
That was his finest performance.
that was good.
Yeah.
You still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we got you. We got you on the air.
If
What's
you
your
put the top part of the phone next to your ear, you can hear people talking.
Dr. Schramm, what's the concept you wanted to pitch to us?
Well, AskTheLifeguard.com is forming a subsidiary which will be a commercial entity.
And? Wow, how'd you come up with that idea?
How'd you come up with that idea?
Holy cow.
Being on the beach a lot, myself and my agents, we've noticed the need for a few products.
Such as?
Well,
Oh my
first of all our products we hope will relate to the beach, make going to the beach enhance that experience. So, of course, I think everybody's noticed how many people have tattoos or ink or whatever you want to call it. It's quite a mainstream thing almost. And of course, at the beach is where people exhibit their ink.
Okay.
There is,
Yeah.
however, a problem with ink at the beach.
All right, what is the problem with tattoos on the beach? Those are permanent, I thought.
Well, the problem is that sometimes after people get their body art, their bodies change and the designs get kind of saggy, or the ink colors fade. So our new company by the way, I'd be happy to reveal the name of the company.
That's okay, you don't have to.
What's the name of the company?
The name of the company is Up Yours.
All right.
Now, the way we came up with that name is, I noticed one time at a party, two gentlemen were each sharing a drink, and they clinked glasses together to toast each other
Yeah.
and said, Up Yours.
Okay.
So I think because first of all,
Is this
it's
thing
friendly,
loaded?
and secondly, it's not self-centered. It focuses on the other person.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right, it's yours, not mine.
So Up Yours now has a new product. We are going into the tattoo business, and we guarantee our tattoos will never fade, never sag, will always be the way they look the day you got them.
All right.
Oh,
It sounds good. All right, we've
And
hit.
the secret is in our ink,
It's in the what?
in the ink that we use.
Yeah, what is
It's
it?
a proprietary formula. The CIA is very interested in it.
well, someone
But
is.
I hope they don't feel it. So our tattoos, we use our proprietary ink, which keep the tattoos in absolute pristine condition.
And that's the way it ought to be. I've always said that.
Yes.
So we will be opening up tattoo parlors, Up Yours tattoo parlors. We're going to set them up on a few beaches this coming summer. But in the meantime, you'll be able to get your tattoos online.
Okay. Hey, we thank you. We're gonna watch for that. We'll put it on your website. We'll be looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Up yours, up yours.
Well, one of those things, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes the ideas are powerful
And
and
frankly, I'm honored that he chose our podcast to reveal.
He calls us pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And if and actually don't do it as you're sitting here because it'll mess up our width of the Wi-Fi band here. But go to askthelifeguard.com and you'll see he's got his own website. So, it is wonderful. All right, Jerry, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is your take, and again, people hear these in all different sequences, so this, put this into the context of the time period. A couple weeks after Thanksgiving and things are really percolating, or maybe it played out on the southern border with the immigration policy of the Trump administration. What's your take on it?
Well, it's controversial, but historically, immigration has always been controversial in American history. We have always struggled with the promise of the Statue of Liberty. I mean, each nationality and religion has had its day, whether it was the Irish, the Italians, Catholics, Jews, Muslims. It is always tense and serious because it gets to the very core of who we are. So this isn't just a new issue suddenly, this new immigration wave. It's not much of a wave here in America, but the whole concern about it, historically, this has always been on the front pages. Now, last week I got to interview Stuart Eisenstadt. Stuart Eisenstadt was the chief domestic policy advisor for Jimmy Carter. He was 4 years in the White House, then he became our American ambassador to the European Union. He was Undersecretary of State. In other words, he had a lot of really top government positions. And I was talking to him about this, about what he thinks of what Trump is doing with immigration. And the story that's worth mentioning, I think, is in 1979, we had the Islamic Revolution in Iran. the Shah, who had been put in power basically by America in 1953, when we helped topple the elected representative, the elected leader of Iran, and we put in the Shah, or his family. And they had now been in power for 25 years. This is back in 1979. And we had supplied all their military might, we really helped their economy, and at least on the international level, Iran was a real ally of us in terms of the Cold War. It was a presence, along with Israel, in the Middle East that was anti-communist, anti-Soviet Union, so Iran was considered a real ally. But as happened too often in this Cold War, we picked sides purely based on that issue, and we kind of looked the other way to the fact that the Shah was an absolute dictator. And over time, as inevitably happens with dictators, they can't deliver, the people get upset, the promises are not fulfilled, and they also notice they don't have any freedom. And there was a movement within Iran, because so many of their people were in fact Muslim, and so there was a revolution that was built, led by the Ayatollah Khomeini. And in the late 70s, they finally overthrew the Shah. And those of us old enough remember watching on television every night tens of thousands of Iranians in the street carrying signs, "Death to America," because we were viewed as the villain as well, because we had backed the Shah and suppressed the Ayatollah and his minions and the people of the Muslim faith that wanted to have, in a sense, their theocracy there. Well, this was one of the major issues which ultimately toppled Jimmy Carter in his effort to win re-election, because this was going into an election year. And people there were just screaming, "Death to America." Now, the Shah, as I said, was toppled, so he had to leave the country. And at some point, he had had cancer for some time, but kept it quiet to the world. But he passed word on to President Carter he would like to come to America and get the medical treatment he needed to survive. He was very ill. And the real diplomatic problem was everyone was blaming us for backing the Shah, and President Carter was concerned that if he let the Shah in for his medical treatment, it would once again outrage the Muslim world, and they would say, "See, America's still," instead of sending him back to Iran so he could face trial there, America's protecting him. And so there was a real humanitarian question on both sides, but do we permit the Shah to come in and get the medical attention he needs, knowing that there would be political upheaval if we did? Well, President Carter, against the advice of a lot of the people around him, decided to let the Shah in and get the medical help. The reaction to that was not very good over there. And as we now know, 50 Americans were taken hostage by college students who stormed the American embassy in Tehran. And for 444 days, they kept 50 Americans hostage. These college students did. And we, the United States of America, the most powerful nation in the world, couldn't get them out. And this made President Carter look weak. This made America look weak. And you coupled that together with the long gas lines, the economy was tanking. I mean, things were really tough. How could a president ever be reelected in this kind of an environment? But President Carter at one point did try to get our hostages out, and he sent there was a rescue effort, 8 helicopters, a bunch of them crashed, and 8 Americans were killed, and it didn't work. So now American people were just, more than the Soviets, more than the communists, more than the Russians, America in the press hated the Iranians. This was our great fear now. This was our new enemy, the Ayatollah Khomeini. So President Carter, wanting to look tough, ordered all Iranians in America that had outlasted their visas, stayed longer than the visa was for, he deported them. He ordered them deported back to Iran. He wanted them out of the country. The minority, the Iranian Jews, some Christians, and other minority religions in Iran, those that were here in America, they knew that if they were deported back to Iran, they would be murdered. In fact, the leader of the Jewish community in America, Iranian Jews, he said, look, I've lived in Iran 95% of my life. They know me there. Everything will be fine. And he went back to Iran, and sure enough, as soon as he got off the plane, they arrested him, tortured him, murdered him, and they dragged his bullet-ridden body through the streets. So that, all of a sudden, the Jewish community of Iranian Jews here in America knew that they can't go back. If President Carter deports them, they will be slaughtered. They're going to their death. And there were pleas made. And President Carter was taking the position, what can I do? Because the law is the law. Congress has to change it, but the law is clear. I can't just pick one group and say, you can stay. The law is when your visa is up, there is a hearing, and if you don't have grounds for staying, you gotta go. So, the Stu Eisenberg, the fellow I was interviewing, he had come up with an idea in the White House to say, there has to be a hearing before you deport them, but there's no law because Congress wasn't going to change its law. So there was no law which said within how many days the hearing has to be held. So they figured out, well, if we don't set a date for the hearing, then they're in limbo, but at least they're not being set back. So President Carter issued an order that said the hearing will be held on the first day that the Shah is reinstated in Iran. In other words, that Khomeini would be thrown out and the Shah would be back in power, knowing full well that wasn't going to happen, but that technicality saved the Jews and some other minorities, and I apologize for forgetting right now off the top of my mind what those minorities were, but they were religious minorities that if they went back, they would be slaughtered. Why do I tell you this story? Compare that concern within the White House, recognizing all the political consequences of these decisions, how to help the immigrants that are running away from a death sentence or torture or horrible. How is that different than the immigrants that are coming north from various South American or Central American countries and seeking to get in here because if they are sent back to their country, they will be slaughtered or horrible things will happen to them. Nowhere, I mean, it's laughable to think that that kind of compassion is going on in this White House. There is a way out of this, and it's not really that complicated if we go to our basic American values. Look at what happened after World War II. After World War II, Europe was devastated, obviously, by the war. All the European countries were just blown apart. Economies dead. Physically, the buildings were crumbling. They were down on their knees. And George Marshall, the Secretary of State, came up with a Marshall Plan whereby America invested in Europe to help rebuild Europe after World War II. It wasn't just for humanitarian reasons. It was a very practical reason that we had the Marshall Plan. We wanted to rebuild Europe because if we didn't, it would fall prey to the expansion of communism. So as a matter of national defense, the justification for putting all that money into rebuilding Europe was made. So it wasn't just, oh, we were trying to be the good guys, it was for America's security. So if back then the threat was communism, taking Trump at his word, now he thinks the threat to America is an invasion of terrorists, invasion of rapists, whatever, coming from these countries. So what I think we should do is to view rebuilding, helping to rebuild some of these countries to slow the flow. In the meantime, let's work out this compromise. What if we said to Trump, we'll give you a little bit of a wall. We'll put some money into a wall. What difference does the wall make? Symbolically, it's horrible, but as a practical matter, it has no. But along with the wall, we spend an equal number of dollars on hiring judges. Maybe 1,000 judges, maybe 2,000 judges. But and I talked about this once before, we get law school graduates. We give them 3 months training on immigration law, specifically. And then we send them all along the southern coast, or wherever you have to send them. And we set up these courts that are there for the specific purpose of those who are seeking asylum. They can be heard right away. So those that really need it can be brought in immediately and given safe harbor. There is no reason not to do that. And also, while we're doing that, to have convene the leaders of these countries that they're escaping from and the United States to say, how can we deal with your economic problems? How can we deal to try to rebuild the poverty-stricken areas as we did in Europe after World War II? Because this now, everyone's saying this is the big fear. Now, if you're asking me, I'm not too worried about an invasion of women and children in wearing their flip-flops coming across the border. But if everyone's so scared, if all the Trump people are saying, oh, immigration, it's the scariest issue. I always wondered why someone living in Idaho is worried about immigration. You know, I mean, really, if you think about it, other than just taking a political stand, how many people in America go to bed every night saying, oh my God, I hope that immigrant has papers? I mean, it's ludicrous. It's disgusting if you think about it. It's a fabricated issue. You ever fly across America? You ever look out the window? You telling me this country is overcrowded? The only reason you're against immigration is because maybe you don't like the color or the language of the people that are coming here. But remember our history. Irish, Italian, Polish, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, every one of the groups. There was a day where you were in the crosshairs. So here's a way to do it. Trump gets his wall. We get the judges. People that are seeking freedom can come here and be heard, and we can live up to what we say with the Statue of Liberty. And America can once again be a country that wants to help. And we're going to help Latin America instead of all these derogatory comments about them. How all these Spanish-speaking people are rapists, how they're terrorists, how they're drug addicts, all this stuff. When clearly, overwhelmingly, percentage-wise, more crimes are committed by us whites, us Caucasians, than anybody else. So, you know, all these mass murderers, mass shootings here in America, how many of them are? No, they're American-born terrorists. They're in our own country, so stop picking on immigrants. That's what I think we ought to be doing. And if we say what we are, if we really believe in the American ideal, we will do something like this.
Thank you, Jerry. We're going to bring Ben Knight on up here.
Yeah.
Musician, songwriter. His band is Bill Knight.
Yeah.
Bill Nye. Ben Knight and the Well Diggers. Tell us about the song that you picked for us today.
Well, yeah, so I wrote down a different one than this, because this is a new song. I'm not really sure what it's about. This is a live performance. It's interactive. You can help me figure out what it's about. The song's called Peacemaker.
it's a terrifying sound. I wanna get back to making love, not making deals. We're dealing with the devil and his flames. I'll pull this pistol from my coat, bring her peace, make her whole. Peacemaker, please leave me alone. I've been hiding from the love that could have found me. I've been reaching out for comfort everywhere. Been inviting all my demons to come home with me. I made a place for them to live beneath stairs. I wanna get back to making love, not making deals. Dealing with the devil and his flames. I'll pull this pistol from my coat, bring her peace, make her whole. Peacemaker, please leave me alone. Peacemaker, please leave me alone.
I heard there's another one that we do, right? We do a group song here.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing it down by the riverside.
Is
but
that right now?
First,
Is there
we
a
want to
pause?
hear about where we can hear more of those sweet, sweet lyrics.
All right. So BenKnightTheWelldiggers.com. I also play with a band called Ohio Valley Salvage, and I think we just released a version of that song online.
Oh, great, great.
Awesome,
And
thank you.
can we mention that we, last podcast, we talked about them,
Oh, yeah.
as a luthier working here, are you,
Yeah, we're,
something to talk about this?
Yeah, so I've been apprenticing with an older luthier here in Cincinnati for a little over a year, and he and I are, as partners, opening up a stringed instrument restoration shop here in the basement of the folk school. We're hoping to be open by the first of the year. So.
All right, that's good to know. Yeah.
So you're gonna pitch in for the rent? That's great.
Yeah, right. You know, it helps everybody. So, give and take. All right, ready?
Let's go.
I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study war no more, ain't gonna study war no more, ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, ain't gonna study war no more, ain't gonna study war no more. Just gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside.